It's you again. What is it? A witness? You ain't got shit. The locals would never come to you with this.
That's just cop tactics, Titus. Next, he's gonna tell you one of us already rolled on the others, and is in witness protection.
Well, let's hear it then. Who is your mystery fella?
He's not alarmed by the sudden appearance of a witness, but he is surprised. This goes without saying, but nonetheless, don't give out his name.
Yeah, right. Like we wouldn't know if an MI plant was in our town. Nice try, right?
MI is short for Moral Intern. Moral Intern is short for Moralist International, the coalition that runs Revachol.
I've seen this shit a million times, Titus. Fly fishing. They are desperate. The last copper. What wacky claims did he make?
It's you assholes that feel the need to go around like a fucking brass band. The Hardy Boys are dead silent.
Yeah, it's like they put cowbells on you before they send you to the streets. What's with the cowbells, policeman?
They're avoiding having to answer this question.
We were drinking, weren't we, guys? I hit the bottle hard. I was drunk as fuck.
Right, I'm convinced, Glenn. Nothing off here. Just a regular hanging.
Bullseye. Glenn looks around uncomfortably. The lieutenant hit a nerve.
Arabagite? Boss, I think he's trying to say me and Theo.
Well, yeah. What is confusing you? Eugene, Theo, and Elaine were there too. I already told you. We were all there.
Those flaccid MI cocks with their culture language. Everything's a surreal play or sublime whatever. Doesn't mean anything.
It means the whole scene was long and drawn out, like it was from a film.
What is this fella's problem? Sorry we didn't make it more action-packed. It wasn't the first thing on our minds, you see?
Shanky. It's Shanky, right? I thought there's something wrong about the lynching story. Now I know there was.
You don't know shit.
I know you are lying, Shanky.
You didn't break this wagon fort, but you did manage to rattle the people inside a bit.
Some witness. I pulled the same shit. Came up with some shit, then went and said it to people. Get a reaction. Don't have to go to cop school to try that.
You don't have to go to school for shit. I never went to school, and I'm doing great.
You're doing a hell of a job, man. Hell of a job.
Okay, maybe it doesn't feel like this did anything to them, but they have to be fretting a little. Everyone is afraid of witnesses. Witness is a scary word. So much bluster to hide the fact that they're uncomfortable with you having this info.
And
He tenses immediately, chest tightens, jaw sets, ready for another blow.
that fucking fucker. You're the worst cops in Revachol. I gave you gold on that tape.
That fucker wasn't aimed at you. It was at her. You smell weakness. He's getting tired of the game he's been playing. You caught him off balance. Push, and he will give way.
Locker room talk. What are you, fucking brain dead? I've been to plenty of locker rooms. They don't plan rapes there.
Sounds like you wanted it to change her mind about the hanged man. This is definitely personal.
What did she have to say then? Fine by her? This is what people are supposed to be like? Fucking whoop-de-doo.
Yes. In fact, I think she thought it was a little funny.
Funny. No good goddamn psycho whore.
Seems like they wanted to give Claudia a second chance to play along. She still didn't.
Alright. All fucking righty then. I guess it's good then. That fucking...
Please try to control yourself in the presence of visitors, Titus.
This is just perfect. Just fucking perfect. Any thoughts on this, lawmen?
Women are crazy. Irrational. That's what you're thinking, right? Also, your fists are itching for a bump.
I ask for your opinion, not a bedtime story. Tell it to your grandma.
But she didn't. She knows she can't lie to us, unlike you.
Oh no. He's definitely compromised too. It's his hubris. Sadly, not much to do about it now.
Fantastic. So now you remember how to do your job. I'm so sick of this piss. We should get something harder in here.
Yeah, guys, we should get a party going tonight.
Why?
Maybe not then.
Success. They admitted to unlawful collaboration to derail the investigation.
Nah, I know her. She's just a girl. In over her head. I don't know what the fuck that means. Aranese lit. What is that shit? Literature?
I've noticed the same. Yes, he meant Oranese literature. Women are always reading, right?
The lieutenant adjusts his electronic wristwatch. Psychological and physical training from an unknown government body. I noticed it. You noticed it. They haven't.
Yeah, maybe. That is a possibility.
He does not sound very convinced anymore.
Yeah, they're all queers. Can't bump, hard fist, or anything.
It's all right, Glenn. I just thought, I thought anyone would come around if they heard that shit. Apparently I was wrong.
Yeah, that was fucked up.
He wanted her to see the man for what he was. Now that you know, you might want to lay off this topic, or else you might antagonize him.
I just got too worked up. Big man lost his shit. It's cool now. You can say that again, copper. Right here.
Here we go. Bump it hard. Your fist connects with his. Hard. The slam is audible. You can almost hear his bones ring. Your knuckles tingle, life-affirmingly. A flash of pain, like slamming your fist against iron. He is stronger than he looks. And he looks like Ramut Kazai.
And now you, Bina Claude.
The lieutenant adjusts his glasses, then extends his curled fist and taps Titus's bruised knuckles. A bond has been formed. Not bad.
I already told you. We fucking hanged him.
There's less gusto in his voice now. His men too are growing increasingly silent. They're confused. This is growing over their heads.
Come on, Titus. We know you didn't hang him. He was shot. I know you're tired. So am I. Why don't you just...
You know what? I am tired. I'm tired of you and the whore upstairs. Next time you see her, tell her Titus said, "Fuck on!"
This is the petulant rage of someone who's at the end of their wits.
That lying, scamming. We're done. This is over. You understand? Your little investigation is over.
Yeah.
On the floor, beer drips out of the can into a small puddle. No one does anything about it.
What is this quiet funeral shit? All we need is some beers in us. Bartender, 20 beers for the Dock Workers Union.
Why do we make it 40, huh? Why do we make it 100 beers? You're not loud enough.
100 beers? Now we're talking. Hoppity hop over here, cafeteria manager.
The window might be closing. The more beers they get in them, the less cooperative they will be. Convince Titus he's being manipulated. You should know by now. Titus Hardy will never falter. But you know someone who might. Fat Angus, the powerful guy, Mr. All Muscle. The time has come. Put him in the pressure cooker. Just remember, it's about more than Glasia. It's about these men and Martinez, their district, their responsibility. Outside in the evening light, ruined and old, shadows lengthen on the pavement. A distant gunshot.
Huh?
He'll get it. Go on.
Got it. Kill you because they don't like you. All because...
Bring that up one more time, and you won't get to write that report.
The man's fists under the table are balled. You can tell from his neck and shoulders. He means it.
Yes, I understand, Alain. That's your name, right, Alain? You'll kill us. That's what they do in the wild north.
It wasn't that. It wasn't. We didn't shoot him.
That's it. That's the weak one. You flushed him out. Now go in for the...
Officer, you will be next if you don't shut up.
Firearm. A Glass 08 or a 38 caliber pistol. Either is small enough for you to have missed. He's onto you. He knows what you're trying to do. Steel yourself. Push on. Just ignore Theo. The lieutenant has put down his notebook. His hand is resting on his holster. He gives you an imperceptible nod. What? What does that mean? Go for it. The lieutenant has his eyes set on the fat guy. Push Angus. We're almost there.
We didn't kill him. We didn't even hang him. He was dead when...
Shut up, Angus!
Fatty! Say one more thing to the cops and I'll...
Dennis, stand down, or I'll beat your head in. Theo, take your hand off the belt. This isn't 31. I've got this under control.
Does he? His closed fist is shaking. It's you who's in control. Let them have their moment.
Angie, where's your goddamn inhaler? You sound like you're dying.
I left it home. I can't get it. I'm too fucked. I'm sorry.
Why are you so fucking fat, Angus? Now it's all pointless. Because of you. You wasted my time. I told you, Titus. I told you just give her up.
Lizzie, your help is no longer needed here. Go tell Everard.
Fine. I'll tell him. After a long walk along the coast.
What just happened between these two? You're in. He's all yours. Questions?
Me too.
The lieutenant gives a smile only you can see. He nods.
You hanged the corpse to cover up the real cause of death, the bullet in his head.
Another nod.
'Cause the girls asked us to. They were in some shit.
Girls plural? There's another girl? 2 of them? Take note of this. They'll probably say more about her later.
Did she kill him?
Cop, I have no idea. The girl says she didn't.
He doesn't think she did. Or at least he hopes she didn't.
Classier came down. She seemed really out of it. Drugged up, even more than usual. Bug-eyed and gurning, you know? Not in a fun way. It looked like she'd redosed after something went down. I've seen that look before. She was scared. I knew someone had died. I've done this job for 10 years. I've seen it before. It's the politician in the motel room with the dead hooker scenario. Only in reverse.
Good analogy, boss.
You don't get to talk yet, Shanky. You're still on the bench. And you keep taking it easy too, Angus.
That's okay with the fat man, still wheezing there. He couldn't speak if he wanted to.
We went upstairs. Sure as day the Merc was dead. There was a bullet hole through the window. Fucking dirty sheets and bottles everywhere.
He means they'd been fucking?
Tibbs patched the window. And the corpse. We hanged. Nah, he's my brother. He's in the window replacement business.
Tibbs. That's short for?
Yeah. Good man.
Bet their father's named Atticus Hardy. Lucretia Hardy would be their sister. Anyway.
You may have noticed our girl's in some shit of her own. Yeah, she wouldn't. She's fucked if she shows up on police radar. They're powerful, connected to the moral intern. She's clearly afraid for her life. Says if she showed up in your systems, she'd be ghosted away.
That's all he knows. That's all she's told him.
And why would you help someone like that? By taking on a murder?
Why would I? I guess we abide all sorts of runaways and losers here. It's a Martinez thing. Not yet. Just some ideas. She says the shot came from outside, behind the window somewhere. So that's a clue. I'm thinking someone's past caught up with them. Either hers or his.
Hers, you mean?
I mean the people after Clausia. Maybe the shot missed. Maybe it was meant for her.
I like that. Been thinking the same thing myself.
My dude. One of those mercenary buddies of his could have done it. They got guns. Training. Years of bad blood, probably. Or it could have been someone else from Crenell. Tell you what I'd do. Check out the coast for vantage points. Maybe consult with a ballistics buddy of mine. That's what I'd do. If I wasn't too busy doing this clown dance with you.
He's calm now. Threw all that turmoil away and became himself again. These theories, not bad. Don't buy either one, but still, this guy's not as dumb as he looks.
In a manner of speaking.
Remember the 2 girls? He may be talking about the other one.
That's right. It was her idea to hang him. I liked it for political reasons. It sent a good message.
Fella, you think too much. He's off all right. You're gonna hurt your head.
A little too far there, but you're definitely right.
That woman is just affiliated with the Hardy Boys. You don't know her, anyway.
Glad you understand that. You do that. Hey, cop, before you go.
Suddenly, the wind picks up outside. You hear it rattling the large windows in their frames. It carries newspapers, circles the whirling in rags in a warm column.
She, Clausia, came to Martinez to hide. Many of us did. This is where you wash up when there's nowhere left to go. The Union takes you in. Now, she refused that protection. But
still, after all this headache.
That's right. If we didn't take care of the people who end up here, this place would just be a couple of ruins and some cargo containers.
We'll take that into account.
This window.
Promising race pupil returns. I am not the first line of defense. I am the last. In addition, these so-called Hardy Boys are an effeminate clique of bodybuilders. Their company is spiritually degrading.
You pick up on something artificial in his tone, like he's putting on an act. This is unlike him. He is usually more himself.
Fine. They have recently fallen under the influence of a possibly sexually perverted female vagrant and a narcotics peddler. It's shameful. Find out for yourself. Endomorphic blob.
Interesting.
And... Look, babe. The disco dancing degenerate has run out of cocaine to shoot into his arms. This has made him short, fused, and impolite. Underneath the posturing, there is the red.
Coca has really fucked him over, Jan.
You could have used this opportunity to overcome your narrow, Al-Ghul ravaged identity. Instead of unlocking the race enigma, you attempted to add to it unsuccessfully. Take solace from the fact that these thoughts will never entirely leave your brain. They will be with you on the day you die. The only germ of heroism in your body. Now go. I have beauty and truth to discuss with my woman.
Damn, Jan. How are you so romantic?
Was there an out of this for you with success? Or was the rhetoric game rigged? I can't tell.
Lowman, you caught me at an opportune moment. This awful weather keeps me awake. You...
You're back. Good. What can I help you with? Not enough.
All around you, rain keeps falling down. On the wooden boards she's standing on, and on the water around you.
Very rugged. Good choice. Now, I suspect you had questions. Nothing like talking to pass a rainy day. Am I right?
She's not even asking you anything.
Of course, Detective. You can always drop by later. I fear I've told you. Is there anything else I can help you with? Of course. Anything. I am sorry to have been the bearer of more lessons in basic reality. My favorite part of the day. Go ahead, ask me anything. These are unimportant times, Detective. You and I were born after the dust had settled. 1,000th of a second too late. For the big time.
The smile of a predator. No doubt what she's got in mind.
All men are predators, dear. Nothing much to be done about that. It's all a matter of where you get to file your teeth. The revolution. It's quite easy. Every 100 years or so, our species gets together to decide what's next, who gets shot in the head, and who gets the mineral rights. It's a real kerfuffle. Why, of course. We're talking Duke out Central. Full swing intra-species warfare. No, I would say the apes were neutral. On the other hand, maybe you're right.
No, the tiny apes are doing all they can to be better. It's not their fault. It takes time for the apes to change and work. Perhaps what happened here was part of that time and part of that work. The apes will never change. They are all evil. End of discussion.
Those would be the communists. Generally speaking, 40 million people got shot in the head during the World Revolution. But the communists, they all got shot in the head.
She's not gloating. It's a relieved celebration.
Oh, and the anarchists too. They shot them well. So well, one forgets they even existed.
She likes the totality of it.
Indeed. They piled them in mass graves in Ozon. And, well, that's the last anyone heard of those people. Did they ever? Before they got shot themselves, they shot 2 million people. Yes, the Red Deluge. The Insulindian Deluge, they call it. Yes, an acute thiamine deficiency can be exacerbated by alcoholism. Exacerbated means made worse. Oh, lots of people. Even the king got shot in the head, or thrown beneath a horse, or drowned. Accounts differ. It was unceremonious. Just as well, he wasn't actually the king. Just the king's nephew. The real king abdicated and lived out a long and productive life as a venture capitalist in Grad. Yes, King Guillaume had a nose for bad PR. He ran before it. What is the expression? Went down? Anyway, Gil got out alive and his nephew Frisell got shot in his place. Him and tens of thousands of his wonderfully fascist kingsmen. It was a wild time. The liberals got the mineral rights. And by mineral rights, I mean everything. Liberals are usually middle-class people, Detective. Or the remaining gentry. The beneficiaries of the pre-revolutionary arrangement. Some were rich enough to stay with the Constitution, with monarchy. Big mistake. Others bet on the revolution. They were called the ultras, or ultra-liberals. They fared well. They didn't win so much as survive. We were the last ones standing when the war ended. Everyone else got shot in the head, remember?
We. She's one of them. Of course.
To foreign intervention. The coalition. Those people really took the mineral rights. The liberals took everything that wasn't nailed to the ground. The coalition took the ground. The ocean, the laws, and the people. The coalition of nations. Grad, Mesk, Vesper, Messina, Oranje, and Sur-le-Clay. The armed center of the world. They landed here and ended the revolution. It was the moralist thing to do.
There is bitterness in her voice, tempered with understanding. She is critical, but ultimately understands the cause.
The moralists believe in keeping everything exactly the way it is. They believe in mineral rights, and not shooting people in the head. At least not in the same manner and volume as the others do. They are the long-standing provisional rulers of Revachol now, the coalition government.
The rulers of Revachol, and also the world. These guys are strong.
This is their zone of control. They embolden the RCM with crumbs of the same law they took. Technically speaking, you are a moralist.
The color of moralism is blue. The official motto of Moral Intern, or Moralist International, is a blue forget-me-not, a piece of grey sky. Unofficial. For a moment, there was hope.
An almost endearingly moralist standpoint. It must be hard to take a moderate approach to head shooting in your line of work. The turn of the century revolution? Don't answer it. It's a trick question. The revolution began in '02 on the Isla of Grad, though by the end nearly the whole world had gotten involved. It wasn't a who, but a what. A pandemic of Zarat, a particularly virulent prion disease, which the authorities in Grad proved unable to contain. Then Mazov came along and overthrew the government. It made people overthrow their governments. Indeed, Zarat is a highly infectious microorganism that destroyed brain tissue. The actual causes of the revolution were material. The pandemic only provided the spark.
It was a funny time in history. They discovered transistors and rock music, but they didn't know anything about prions. Nobody did.
From Revachol and Grad? Not far. The world managed to cauterize itself. Mazov's government was overthrown in '08, and the coalition crushed the Revachol commune 2 years later. It was the end. Why? You and I, officer. Our lives in the zone of control.
Something tells you her life and yours are not that similar. Maybe it's because she has a boat and you have that necktie? A pair of pants?
No doubt. But we share the same time and position on the planet's crust. That counts for more than you think. A city-state divided into free market zones under the everlasting interregnum of the Coalition of Nations. And you, of course, the citizens' militia.
The clatter of typewriter keys fills the main hall of the reappropriated silk mill. Precinct 41. Chad Tilbrook presses enter. Outside, Officer Elfboy Williams slams the door of an armored motor carriage.
The zone of control is the third incarnation of Revachol, after the failure of the suzerain and the commune, modernity. They developed the marvels of the inter-Islary communication, telematic milieus, radiation, colored plastics. Meanwhile, in Revachol West, the aftermath continues for the 5th decade.
51 minus 8 equals 43.
Time flies. The 20s saw a decade of urban war, west of the river leveled, offshore platforms in flames. Still, it's regarded as an improvement on what came before. '08 to '19 was simply hell. The 30s? Things settled down in the 30s. Revachol East transformed itself into the world's largest tax haven, with the international community's blessing. For the first time in a long time, it seemed like things were going somewhere.
Then you happened. Your youth in the 30s. All that untaxed income must have fueled the new. That can only mean one thing.
Yes, and quantitative easing. It was a market mirage, unfortunately. The 40s dispelled it. An Isla-wide hangover, you might say. So, here we are. Welcome to reality, baby.
From the looks of it, the 50s haven't been much better for the zone of control. You can see it in her eyes. Days slipping away.
I've no right to be dissatisfied. This shirt is Barbara Muscova, this raincoat is impervious to rain and is guaranteed for 100 years. My daughters will wear it. No, it's just... We could have had so much more. Every one of us. If only we'd played it right. Good question. What would you have done differently?
No, her first.
And I asked you, past-less detective of the Citizens Militia, what insight has acute encephalopathy given to you?
Here's some wisdom, lady. Say the death thing. A cold creeps up your spine, reaching its tendrils up your neck, toward the back of your head.
So a quarter of humanity simply lost their minds. And how would you stop a prion, a complex folding protein, unlife, with the technology 50 years ago?
The wind stops, and for a moment, there's silence. The charge dissipates into the dark water. All is quiet on the Martinez inlet. A dog barks. A gunshot echoes off the walls of some distant building. A woman's voice.
It's all yours.
A poor remedy for prion disease. That was the attitude of most of the more moderate Indo tribes, particularly those who supported the king. Kupri, Resplendent, both gone now. Those that survived mended their ways. They're all ultras now.
Opinions expressed here do not reflect the official position of the RCM.
And what is your official position, Lieutenant?
There is curiosity there that goes unnoticed. Kim takes a step back, absent-mindedly.
My position, ma'am? My parents got ripped to shreds in the revolution. I would have gone the same way. I was saved by being 2 years old. That's my position. The abattoir.
Understandable. Good question.
No, her first. A cold creeps.
So a quarter of humanity simply lost their minds. And how would you stop?
The wind stops, and for a moment, there's silence. A dog barks. A gun.
There is peace in the heart.
Good hygiene. Really. A very moderate solution to an extreme problem. It's those sort of half measures that doomed the authorities in Grad. When they failed to step up, Marzov and his party stepped in. In this particular case, maybe a more robust state response might have been appropriate. And what is...
There is curiosity.
My position...
Understandable. They are what they are. Who knows? An afterbloom may yet come. Anyway, enough sentimentality. Is there anything else you want to know?
Not so fast. Who is she in all this? Ask her who she is. She owes you an answer. She won't maneuver her way out of this one.
I am the vilest of the vile. A traitor. A devourer of nations and infants. I am an ultra.
She raises the corner of her mouth, smirking, revealing a canine. It's sharp.
An ultra-liberal. It's a type of liberal. From the revolution. It's, not the moderate kind. Haven't you heard? I am a nether creature of the Forbidden Swamp. One of those who pushed the king under a shitwagon and betrayed the revolution. We surrendered the nation to financier pirates. No sane person identifies as ultra-liberal anymore. Not in broad daylight. I can see we're not so different, you know. Tell me, now that I've uncoiled myself, do you find me frightening?
In her green eyes, you see a mixture of truth and self-satire. Decades of guilt and pride. Forgive her, but only because you like pearlescent teeth and those light green eyes.
A devil, who being of great charm and guile, sneaketh into the homes of the godly.
That dialect is Ubi Sunt. You recognize the quote from somewhere. A play written way back in the Franco-Nigerian century. Beneath her waterproof raincoat and silk shirt is a body imbibed in Num 12 perfume. You are suddenly and intimately aware of it.
Ah, maybe you remember more than you let on, despite whatever brain damage the alcohol may have inflicted. Steal, kill, and destroy. That they say we've been doing for over 4 decades now. Perhaps regrettably. I've had my fill for this century. In any case, I'm glad we can remain collegial despite my scaly bulk, and my perverse need to infiltrate and betray both kingdom and revolution. When the dust settled, the liberals were the only ones left to clean up the mess. By virtue of their survival, they were handed enormous power to shape the future. This was all our last generation managed. With due respect to our overlords, the eternal caretaker government that keeps Martinez a monument to the efficacy of its artillery.
An appropriate warning to those who cross the line and pull the city into madness once more. While a gentle wind sweeps the streets in the rebuilt east, light drizzle washing it clean, lights go up and motor carriages circulate the tracks.
I would not have relinquished sovereignty to the Coalition. Not here in Martinez, and not in the Stella Maris or Delta Beachheads either. If not for my own sake.
She realizes her small, cold fists are clenched. She loosens them.
Then for my daughters. We had an obligation to defend our sovereignty. We should have burned the whole Isla down rather than let them have it.
Dark orange flames reflect in her green eyes. An oil fire on the ocean.
Perhaps. My intellectual vanity will be my undoing.
You're no dummy yourself.
A smart boy getting smarter, one basic term of reality at a time. Yes, I suppose I am. But I wouldn't be a patriot anywhere but here.
Seditious talk, man.
Yes. Whatever else I am, I'm also a mother. And a wife. Now, shall we return to reality? A bird? A sphenicid? A flightless bird of the polar regions? Ah! This is the pier of Rue de Saint-Ghislaine, 33A, where the tenants have been kind enough to rent me a slot, or 2. A pre-revolutionary tenement. Old buildings are called tenements, you see. And new buildings, bâtiments. After les bâtiments nouveaux. But 33A and 33B are not nouveaux. They're old. This one used to be 8 to 10 stories tall. A real high-rise by the standards of the last century. Built to mirror the skyscrapers across the bay in the Delta. That was before the war, of course. Mostly the urban middle class, I believe. This was once primo real estate, before the cannons lopped 4 or 5 stories off. Splat, splat.
You could be wrong, but from here it appears as if she's running the brush across her throat in a soaring motion.
Wonderful. The girl in the old lady rags. Looks like a sullen and rebellious member of a teen infraculture. Yes, you and I belong to the supraculture. We're common, the herd. The music on the radio, the food in the chain restaurant, those are all too popular for the girl in the old lady rags. She prefers a fantasy world, an infraculture with its own dress code and vernacular. It is an illusion, I'm afraid. There is no refuge from the supraculture. I can't. That's how simple it is. One may dye their hair green and wear their grandma's coat all they want. Capital has the ability to subsume all critiques into itself. Even those who would critique capital end up reinforcing it instead. All right. What next?
Suddenly, you're not so sure you're part of the superculture.
And what would that be? I can see that, yes. I dabble in those dark arts myself, not so long ago. I assure you, it was a thoroughly supracultural phenomenon. All permeating. Downright mandatory. Nothing infra about disco, baby. Those days are long behind me. And even in the early 30s, I would say I was more of a new girl. Disco was a minor, but still enjoyable facet of the whole thing for me. The new. A cultural era. And the name of the decade it ravished, the 30s. It came out of post-revolutionary Revachol. It was ultra-liberal. It involved lots of partying, as you might imagine, and champagne-coloured everything. By the looks of it, that would have been when you came of age. Now, wasn't it Guillaume Le Million who said, if you can remember the new, you weren't there?
For some reason, your mind is a veritable repository of Guillaume Le Million lyrics, trivia, and B-sides. But the time to explore this is when you're alone, facing a mirror perhaps. Right now, it would derail the reality lowdown. What is all of this? The scent, the sound, the air.
What world? The only one, I suppose. The world of matter. And its pale antipode.
The camera of her mind glides over the surface of the water.
Great bodies of water. Forest-covered surfaces. Clusters of light where the cities lie. You've seen the montage. We all have. This world is enough.
It must be. This is the greatest and the kindest arrangement the atoms had in them. A frisson lifts the hair on the back of your arm. Wind sweeps the surface of the bay.
The world is a suzerainty of Revachol.
There is a term of endearment they coined for it in the DeLorean century, when humanity was high on this world, discovering more and more of it, these archipelagos included. Elysium. Not in this case, no. That sounds more like something the Mesk petrofascists might say.
The Confederate Republic of Mesk, the world's largest state by territory, has fallen into an especially nihilistic strain of nationalism lately.
It isn't enough to call us animals. Even animals aren't animals. They're like you and I suppose. Living organisms don't identify with abstractions. Elysium is for particular beings. It does. There are those who would call it hell. A term of hatred that originates, like many such things, with the Mesk petrofascists. Oh, you want a picture of the world? There is no complete set yet, dear. They're having some trouble reaching orbit. Great things are difficult to achieve. For now, we're viewing the world from the inside, sideways. That's looking less and less likely, Detective. You wouldn't know it from the tabloids, but the ORG nations have been launching weather balloons into the lower ionosphere since the 30s.
ORG, Occident Revachol Grad.
There's a steadily increasing trickle of images. Between the big three, they're piecing together a dark grey corona. Yes. Pale covers 72% of the surface. There are grey flares and prominences, even arcs above entire isolas. The images are blurry, but if there was a sphere in there, it certainly looks like it fractured a long time ago.
A cold fear seeps into you.
You seem to be spooked. Please don't be. They say there is a rarefied envelope of matter surrounding the darkened disk of our planet. That is, if we are still living on a planet. Or, to speak more plainly, imagine vast swathes of land disrupted by nothingness. I am sorry, dear. It must sound quite terrifying through the acute encephalopathy. Even scientific positivism isn't entirely convinced about what we're dealing with here. But this is one of the greatest questions of our time. Maybe when they get the complete set together, it will jolt us out of our rut, bring us together, however naive it may sound. You have misimagined it. I don't have the power to convey to you the effect and geometry of the images that depict our world from below low orbit. It's like the crowning of the world. It's insane. Very disco. You'd love it. See? Everyone finds something worth holding on to in this world, however wasted its opportunities.
The cold seeps into you. The air is heavy with 80% humidity. Suddenly, you're conscious of yourself standing there, on whatever this all is. Your arms hang down by your sides. The lieutenant observes you both, silently. He adjusts his glasses.
The Pale is not, technically speaking, part of reality.
Yes. Also, I think we've had enough excitement for today. We do have a case to attend to.
His voice is low, but firm. All she can say is,
Of course, Lieutenant. Let's try something else. I don't think your colleague would appreciate that. He has already been so patient with this whole exercise. Let's continue with something else, all right? You can ask about anything else in the world. Anything.
but she wants to tell you. You could sneak back later, when he's not around, unless you can convince him to step aside. Good idea. Just ask him. He won't make a scene.
Fine.
See? What can he do? You're a grown man.
Are you sure you're sure? Your colleague seemed adamant. Okay. The Pale is the most dominant geological feature of the world, Detective. The separative tissue between the islas. It is the inter-islary mass. Isla is a Messinian word for a continent of matter, enveloped on all sides by the Pale. Also, isolation, or landmass. We used to believe there was only one. In the last 4 centuries, we have discovered 7. Windy, Seol, Samara, Ilmara, Grad, Katla, and this, Insulinde. An oceanic isla. It comprises mostly of water. Muindi is the largest, Katla the coldest, Insulinde the bluest. What can I say? Each is perishing and dear. Achromatic, odorless, featureless. The Pale is the enemy of matter and life. It is not like any other, or anything in the world. It is the transition state of being into nothingness.
The negation of being.
That's right. The negation of being. No, Detective. We're safe. It begins there, 6,000 kilometers to the north, and even more to the south, east, and west. You are in the middle of the Isla.
As your gaze instinctively turns north, a small black pit opens up in your stomach.
Yes. That is enough. Many cities are built much closer. An uproar of matter, darling. Rising into the Pale. Rolling. Evaporating even. the Great Vision. The area of transition between the world and the Pale is called Porch Collapse. Imagine a grey coronal mist, cold vapor marked by spores of an opportunistic microorganism, a mold that's adapted to grow at the edge of the unrest. It's the most disco thing you will ever see.
You hear your pulse rise. The air feels caustic and cold suddenly.
It's difficult to describe, or even measure. Something whose fundamental property is the suspension of properties. Physical, epistemological, linguistic. The further into Pale you travel, the steeper the degree of suspension, right down to the mathematical. Numbers stop working. No one has yet passed the number barrier. It may be impossible.
There's a slippery article in there.
Pale when it's particular, this territory of Pale. The Pale when it's pale in its entirety. Once you've seen it, language balks at the difference. Oh, it is so difficult for us.
A squall of birds. Hardware operating in the harbor. Firm. Self-evident.
It is possible to force dimensions on the Pale. In modern times, we can even compress its latitude, bouncing radio waves from one end to the other, shortening the path. But it is still hard for humans to navigate the Pale without getting lost, or having our minds damaged. Extensively. Some say the damage stems from extreme sensory deprivation. Others argue that Pale somehow consists of past information that's degrading, that it's rarefied past, not rarefied matter. They call it the blend over of the self. The Pale does not only suspend the laws of physics, but also the laws of psychology, maybe history even. The human mind becomes over-radiated by past.
Who says and who argues?
The logical positivists say, the dialectical materialists argue. It feels terrible. Absolutely terrible. International standards strictly limit civilian travelers to 6 days of Pale exposure per year.
It's more for her. Way more.
No, nameless detective of the Citizens Militia. I am a member of the Entropanetic Business Class. I'm cleared and trained for 22 days of Pale transit annually.
Perhaps that explains her strange pining after the revolution. Some degraded early memories. Someone else you've met may have been exposed as well. The strange grey-haired woman in her lorry.
Yes, carried in the hulls of airships. It's a horrific job. Automation will abolish it soon.
You should ask the Pale driver about this. See what she says. That poor woman must have stories to tell, like you wouldn't imagine.
Up to my gills, officer.
An acidic smile on her lips. It's getting worse every year.
Entropanetics is the scientific study of the Pale, or a recent iteration of it by way of grad. The study of the Pale reaches back 6,000 years. The Pericarnassians called it the Western Plain.
They had not traveled the entire circumference of the Pericarnassian Super E Solar. It was not merely in the west, it was everywhere, even then, surrounding them.
There are signs of pre-modern crossings. Successful navigation of the Pale relies not just on technical know-how, but intensive psychological preparation. Some of these tactics have been known for thousands of years. Nothing. We remain powerless before the Pale. The only real advance in Pale transit is the speed with which an aerostatic craft can pierce it. Less exposure leads to less effects later. Hybrid airships, detective. Conventional rotors or jet engines no longer add velocity after the point of reference for motion is suspended, once you've crossed from near Pale to far Pale. In essence, we throw them in and they come out the other end. If we throw them precisely, then they don't.
Gone, like a skipping stone beneath the surface.
The Pale outweighs reality 2 to 1. There is more Pale than there is matter, and the ratio is slipping. What do you think, Detective? Precisely. One of the few measurable effects of the Pale is that it is expanding at an unknown rate. An intuitive conclusion of that development is that one day the Pale will cover everything. But this sort of talk is mostly left to extremists. Most people, and indeed most private and government sector organizations, entire civilizations and religions even, find handy ways to ignore or downplay that knowledge. I suggest you do the same.
Off we go. You see the hanged man's mouth open.
One and all. They say Pale is death, but for the universe.
Why should we just leave, and the world get left behind?
Yes, sweet reality. But before we do, tell me, Detective, is this the first time you're hearing this? Do you really not remember anything? Then tell me, what do you think of the Pale?
Your ailing constitution, sweaty forehead, the beads there, and your heavy breathing.
You really didn't know. This does not spell good for the investigation, Detective. If you don't know even this, then... I hope so. I truly do. If I may suggest, hold on to your colleague, Kitsuragi. I ran a check on him and he is very competent. In the meanwhile...
Some of that assurance is meant for herself, as much as it's meant for you. She must have a lot on the line here.
You have me. I will assist you in any way I can, even if we have to do it one basic term at a time.
Good. You have not passed out from it. Perhaps I worried for nothing. Are we still on the reality lowdown, or should we do actual police work now? But I did. Anyway.
Damn it, you're a grown man, the lieutenant thinks. Shouldn't have gotten protective hair.
Good luck, detectives.
Hello again, officers. Have you come to admire my mural?
What do I care about some fucking tin eggshells? Ugh, alright, sad piggy. I'll give you this one. I saw a little girl in the fishing village running around with military-grade handwear. Looked cute as hell. If you haven't been there, the village is a shithole down the coast from the main plaza. Have a good time! No. That's all the snitching Cindy the Skull does for today. Actually, I don't even know why I told you what I just told you. I have a weakness for animals. It's the animal thing again. Damn it.
Or a weakness for police officers, miss. Thank you either way.
Lowman, you caught me at an opportune moment. And what is that?
Great. He asked the Pines rep about the Pale, and now he's talking to everyone about it. Fine then. Just try not to black out again, and don't contemplate. We don't have time for that.
It's death, but for the universe, oh, we're contemplating the living shit out of this.
Exactly what I didn't want you to do. Ma'am, my partner wanted to know if you work in Pale Transport.
No offense. But your partner? Seems like a bit of an idiot.
Republica, a filterless cigarette from Misk.
Neither is Pale transportation. Life is transitory. Like Gabriel Buenguerro in Pergunte a Poeira. You're the opposite of me, then. I remember everything, even things I never knew. The smell of liquor on Gabriel's lips after the shoot, in the motor park. The roses on the day of Franco Negro's coronation, on the grand stairs of Ryle. The smoke from the Fowling piece when Dolores Day was shot. The look on her face, like an orgasm. The wound in her chest. My hand in my father's hand. Except I never had a father, and I never shot her innocent Dolores Day. Heroic doses, Harifia. Heroic. Thought insertion? Dithering? The Grad Catalan Magistral? It's more than dangerous. It's sad. But when you've seen it all go away like that, rolling off like the sea, and then come back to this. What are we doing here? For thousands of years, Gabriel. It doesn't have to be like this. We can just give up. We can just become a vapor. Like looking into the ocean at night, in the dark. You cannot see it, but you know it's there. And it's big, bigger than anything. Bigger than all the other things combined. Nothing. Until it starts. When you are deep enough. Then, for me, it's like autumn. Dark, gray, and orange. The orange of street lights and the color of streets and electric light. It smells like autumn too. It smells terrible.
Nostalgia. Cooped up in the cabin, shaking. Terrible nostalgia. For yourself. For humans. It's too much to bear. She loves it.
In the belly of an airship, behind the steel windows. So you don't look straight into it. It's not advised to look into it. No, the same one, a roller. They all are nowadays. Special wheels for connecting to the floor of the hold.
The wheels all small and round. Multi-axle trailers.
Yes.
No elaboration.
They say there is a point, one that I have not crossed. In the Pale super deep. If you stray too far, of course, on the U41A, or in Lomonosov's land, where every step you take is one step further from home, no matter the direction. It's a point you cannot come back from. Your mind becomes so radiant with the past, there is a flip. Instead of writing, it erases memory, nearing some kind of indescribable finale. Maybe you've been down the motorway south. It's a story as lone horsemen tell. Lone horsemen, Jerife, not Pale drivers. Way beyond the established Pale that's lit by radio frequencies, where it goes silent and dark, and the process begins, erasure, kilometer by kilometer, in any direction. The motorway south is a road you cannot come back from.
In the center of this town, there's a ghostly motorway, she sang.
They say I've been away on a kind of holiday. No one knows what's at the end. I've only glimpsed the beginning. I've only felt it in the distance, when I was a child. A child rowing on the lake. Josiana.
There is nothing more to do now. She's far away. She is receding in the clutches of some indescribable scattered emotion. A child descending.
You've fried both your brains enough for today, detective. Let's get some air. This one's far gone.
The woman looks. Girl child, you hear her say. Girl child, girl child. It's the letter you found in the trash. A cabbage, an aluminium, a bunch of sodden papers sag from the clipboard in your hand. It's a sorry sign. Without resistance or sound, the two panels move against each other. You stare at the card, willing your hand. Two octopuses are. It's your hand shakes. You're flushed with adrenaline. A cockatoo is a parrot with an erectile crest, found on the Seminole Islands and in southern Fas a la Mer. Known for their intelligence and general precociousness, cockatoos are popular birds in aviculture. However, they often exhibit various behavioral issues. This book talks about the delicate nature of toos, as well as introducing some of the most popular species among the bird enthusiasts. The funeral cockatoo, the major majestic cockatoo, and the most common bang-bang cockatoo. It's colorfully illustrated. Where to even begin? All cockatoos are known for their needy natures, requiring attention for at least 2 full hours a day. They love to talk and have been described as lovable clowns who just don't know how to wrap up. Pet owners also report moodiness, loudness, and hostility as recurring issues. If left unsatisfied, cockatoos may scream non-stop, pluck their feathers, or become aggressive. It is not recommended to get a cockatoo if you're not able to cook them food every day and give them the full care that they need. These birds will never understand that you have a life of your own. You're right. Cockatoos are magnificent creatures. They love to perform, cuddle, and show off, and will even scream for fun, often as loud as up to 135 decibels. Ouch. That must hurt. Not great for the neighbors. Performing? Yes, birdie. This is a yellow-tailed black cockatoo. Its specific name, Psittacus venereus, relates to its dark and somber plumage. This bird looks as if dressed for a funeral, 24/7. There is something indisputably ominous about it. Perhaps the most impressive of all the species, the endangered major majestic cockatoo, is often described as the most flamboyant bird in the jungle. Its pink-colored wings and flowing crest embellishing its proud and bumptious nature. In the words of poet-explorer Sir James Fournier, few birds more enliven the monotonous hues of the verdant forest than this big, bold, and beautiful species. It must be glorious to behold, dark pink and snow white. Despite its banging name, the bang-bang cockatoo is actually the shyest of the species, common in almost all Seminoles forests, as well as zoos and homes all over the world. Its plumage is mainly gray and white. The Seminoles name, bang-bang, is thought to be of onomatopoeic origins. The bang is for all the scary things in the world that may happen at any time. Yes, but all those cockatoo species are so different. Which one are you? Your Majesty embodied. This big, beautiful bird belongs on your heraldry. In your hands, you hold a brand new copy of the game, Suzerainty. It's snugly wrapped in a skin of plastic. The cover features a charming illustration depicting a mass of grinning laborers loading goods onto a ship, while a richly dressed administrator oversees their work. The exact location and time period are left deliberately vague, but it's clearly meant to represent the economic relationship between the Revacholian suzerainty and its many vassals. The box has a nice heft to it. You hear the rattle of individual wooden tokens and feel their weight shifting back and forth. What treasures wait in store for you? Even before you open it, you can tell that this will be a meaty game of grand strategy and complex player interactions. The plastic wrap rips off as easily as a bodice in a tawdry historical romance. There's a hiss as the lid slides off. Inside, you find a thick, full-color rulebook and more than a dozen pouches of various wooden components. Savor that new board game smell. A mix of wood, paper, and ink, all wrapped in the sweet must of cardboard. Welcome to Suzerainty, a game of economic strategy for the whole family. The rulebook is sumptuously illustrated and thick as a Gradian novel. The colorful illustrations depict cheerful workers picking apricots, hauling marble sculptures out of crumbling temples, and harvesting a strange magenta-leafed plant. Everyone is smiling. You begin to suspect there may be a political agenda to this so-called family game. Only one way to find out. The instructions are opaque at first and introduce many concepts you're not familiar with. Fortunately, there are many diagrams and examples throughout. You soon figure out the basic conceit. Each player represents an administrator for the suzerain of Revachol. Your objective is to increase the suzerain's wealth and renown by accumulating victory points. That's where the suzerain's vassals come in. The game features 4 vassal nations, each one home to an economically important resource. Each turn, the player collects resources from vassals where they've placed workers. They may then rearrange their workers, fulfill contracts for coin and bonuses, or build structures back in Revachol. As you leaf through the pages, your eye catches on a sidebar labeled Advice for Beginners. Remember, there are many paths to victory in Suzerainty, but successful players will find one strategy and commit to it wholeheartedly. Boring, boring, boring. Tear up this rulebook and commit some old-school atrocities. The actual scoring system appears infinitely complex, with a series of tables and appendices required to compute each player's final victory point total. You skip that part for now. You open up a number of pouches containing wooden tokens. There are also several punch boards with other cardboard components that will need to be punched out before you can play. In addition to the worker and building tokens used by each player, there are also several piles of colorful resource tokens, each representing one of the game's 4 principal resources. From the Empire of Safre, orange apricot tokens. From Ilmarat, the ancestral name of Ilmara, gray marble block tokens. From the Semenine Islands, white sacks of sugar tokens. And from Supramuindi and Sarah Maritza, magenta tokens for unprocessed cocaine leaves.
Oh, those are nice.
Each cardboard token makes a satisfying tsk as you pop it out. Soon, a neat pile of cardboard coins and counters has accumulated before you.
What? You're not going to offer to let me punch any of them out?
You hold the open game box before you. The lieutenant looks over the rulebook before he sees something that makes his eyes go wide.
Holy shit. The average playing time for this game is 1 to 6 hours. I'm not sure we can afford to set aside that kind of time for a game.
What is detective work? if not an elaborate game. You need logical inference, attention to detail, the ability to analyze your opponent's motives.
I do feel like my thinking has become somewhat rigid. Maybe a little diversion to keep the mind limber is just what's in order.
See? He's doing the hard work himself. All he needed was a little nudge.
Alright, you've convinced me. How do we play?
You explain the basic setup procedures to the lieutenant, who seems to be a quick study. You each take your bag of tokens and counters and unfold the board between you. In the center is the crown of Revachon. Radiating outward are her colorful vessels, each one supplying some raw material desired by the suzerain. Apricots from Safre, archaeological treasures from Ilmarat, sugars from the Seminine Islands, and magenta cocaine from Supra Muindi and Sara Maritza. There's also a neat little log to keep track of your progress in case you need to put the game away and return to it later. The lieutenant goes first. He draws a contract card and moves several of his workers to the Safre territory of the board, and the others to the Seminine Islands.
Alright, detective, your turn.
You have a few options available to you. Will you try to fulfill contracts right away, or rearrange your workers to maximize production on future turns? Remember what the rulebook said. You'll want to choose a strategy early on and stay committed to it. What? It's the very beginning of the game. Your workers haven't even done any work yet. That's more like it. You produce a handful of archaeological treasures and a smattering of other resources. Meanwhile, the lieutenant spends 2 of his sugar and 1 of his apricot tokens to complete his contract card. He is rewarded with 4 coins and a round wooden token that he places in the center of the board.
That's a market. It's worth 2 victory points. Don't worry, it was mostly just luck. You'll earn some points soon enough.
What is that patronizing tone? You're one of the suzerain's trusted administrators. You may need to put the lieutenant in his place.
Points are nothing. They don't exist. They're just an arbitrary convention that games use to reward or punish players for certain behaviors.
If points are really arbitrary, as the lieutenant says, what's to stop you from playing the game the way you want?
Game designers, I imagine? There are some paranoid types who believe the moral intern keeps detailed score sheets for everyone in the Real Belt. But that's obviously nonsense. Otherwise, no. There are no points, just your actions and the consequences of those actions.
Just like there are no honor points. None whatsoever.
That's just the way it is. Now, I believe it's your turn.
Glancing over the board, you see several possible strategies. Pressing more workers into service would increase your economic output and help you to survive a possible conflict with the lieutenant. Or you could ignore your labor supply and focus on fulfilling contracts for points and resources. Those aren't your only options. You could also show your workers how much you appreciate them by investing some of that wealth in them. After all, they're the ones producing wealth for the suzerain. Well, sure, you can do that. It's just not a terribly effective strategy, but then it's up to you. To the lieutenant's puzzlement, you spend several turns building various improvements to your territorial infrastructure. Soon, your workers have access to clean water, paved roads, and basic hobbies. In return, they produce 1 extra resource per turn.
Too bad investing in your workers just isn't worth many points. Take a look at the scoring tables in the back. You see in Table 8C that investing in territorial infrastructure multiplies your final victory point total by 1, which is to say not at all. Whereas erecting monuments in Revachol gives you a multiplier of 5. Yes, precisely.
Nonsense. Remember what the lieutenant said. If points are arbitrary, who cares about winning? You should reject their system and just play how you want. Now it's the lieutenant's turn to respond. He moves aggressively onto the Safre territory. Soon, his workers are producing a steady supply of extremely valuable apricots. How can you let the lieutenant dominate you like that? You need to hit back, and hard. For several turns, you struggle to respond to the lieutenant's burgeoning apricot empire. Eventually, you relocate the majority of your workers to Supremawindi and Saramoritza, where they begin producing a bumper crop of cocaine tokens. You draw a new contract card. According to the text, there's an aristocrat willing to trade a large supply of cocaine for a number of coins and access to a rare bonus. Amplified music worth 7 victory points. Oh yeah, baby. Cocaine and rock music go together like cocaine and rock music. You know, this isn't unlike the situation the historical Revacholian suzerainty faced in Safre in the middle of the last century. Well, the suzerain was looking for new markets for all the cocaine it was producing, and it settled on Safre. By introducing cocaine into Safre under exclusive contract, the suzerain created an extremely valuable captive market for an extremely addictive product. If you could somehow get the lieutenant's workers addicted to your cocaine, you could not only make them less productive, you would also force the lieutenant to pay you for your cocaine tokens. Yes, you can. It's right there in the rules. Now's your chance. Show the lieutenant what happens when he patronizes you. You've reached a critical strategic juncture. How do you respond to the lieutenant's aggression? With each passing turn, you slowly bleed the lieutenant of coins as his own workers become less productive and more dependent on your magenta cocaine tokens. As a matter of historical fact, this is almost exactly what happened in Safre. To this day, fully half of the former Safre Empire remains dependent on international aid in exchange for a steady supply of cheap produce.
More or less.
Realizing victory is slipping away, the lieutenant launches a desperate gambit: protectionism. By erecting tariffs on your cocaine, he hopes to starve you out of the market at the risk of incurring the suzerain's disfavor. The end game is upon you. Do you escalate the trade war with the lieutenant in hopes of crushing him with your economic might? Or do you ignore his aggression and focus on building the mighty victory column structure in Revachol herself? Alternatively, you could throw the whole game away by trying to build a public education system for the children of your workers. The choice is yours. Building the ultimate structure requires diligent economic planning, which you completely fail to do. Rather than build a glorious monument to Revachol's economic superiority, you have to settle for a handful of post offices and school for the blind.
A risky gambit, detective. Sorry it didn't pay off. That might have helped, yes. Now, let's tally up the scores, shall we?
Computing the final scores is almost a game unto itself. You each spend an inordinate amount of time making stacks of coins, consulting tables, and struggling with basic addition and multiplication. After double, then triple checking your maths, you have your final score. 15 victory points. The suzerain will not be impressed.
I've got 26 points. Don't be glum, detective. There's always next time. Figuratively, I mean. There's no way we have time to play this game again. Now, let's clean up and get back to work.
You hold the open game box before you. It's just a racist mug. What's there to read here? No, but it will not happen.
Yes?
A mirror hangs. The bed is still cold from the broken. The bed is still cold from the wind blowing in from the broken window. The mattress creaks as you close your eyes and try your hardest to fall asleep.
Here we are again, my broken bird. The waves are coming, carrying you away. But you can't go. No, you have to stay. Always half aware of yourself. You're not cooperating, brother man. It's your disgusting body. Even through your sleep you feel a vague discomfort suffusing it. Your belly and your sides are unpleasantly tender. You wish you could curl up into a fetal ball of safety. But you cannot, because of the pain.
And there's a lot of it, ever present in your organs. It's like every one of them has their own nasty song to sing. That pain in your right side is your enlarged liver, by the way. As for your kidneys, you've really been compounding the damage lately. Every cell in your body is moaning in agony, asking, what did we ever do to you?
Now, you're finally thinking about something other than yourself. Let's see how far that'll get you.
There's no dignity here. Only reflections of your body mass. Flashes of the day. You keep coming back to yourself in the mirror. But why? To admire all your accomplishments? You're just stuck here, in the half-world. Could try looking at other people. Really looking. But why would you want to start doing that? Sure you do. They're all so friendly, aren't they?
Some of them are. Some of them are nice. Others are scared. At least they're interesting. Each one has a process just like yours, running in the space between their ears, full of secrets. People are beautiful, statuesque, parodies and tragedies of themselves. A great democracy of creatures.
What do you think you're doing right now? Coming to some greater awareness? Look at all these lights, blinking in and out of existence. Thoughts! You're just pretending that you're asleep, even to yourself, while the world goes on without you.
Let it. Let it.
But it never seems to let you go, does it? Time to rise and wipe that shining sweat off as best you can. Gather your bearings. Rock and roll.
Put on your prettiest face for the masses.